Welcome to the hub of analytics education, preparing students for the future, millions of records at a time. The hub of analytics education is located in Boston, Massachusetts.
My name is Charlie Baymaldry. I'm one of the co-founders of the hub of analytics education. The objective of today's video is we're going to try to import a file into a business intelligence tool and come up with some simple totals. The business intelligence tool that we're using today is ACL. ACL is used primarily by internal and external auditors as well as risk management professionals. You'll need to get your license for ACL and also download the sales file from the hub of analytics education. Let's get started.
So here I've opened up ACL. There's two different windows I want to talk about. First, the Navigator window, as well as our overall data window. This is where you'll see most of your data, and this is where you'll be taking a look at what you're doing. Over here is our Navigator window. Under the overview, you'll see a listing of all of the files that you will be working with. Under the log, as you are creating new kinds of processes, importing, it will log what you're doing. This will be very useful if you want to create scripts. We'll talk about scripts later on in our video series. And if you create any variables, those variables would be saved here. We're just going to leave it on the overview file. And we're going to go through the process of importing a file. But first, before you do that, you have to create a new project. And I've already done that. I've called it Video Teaching Notes. And to do that, I just went to File, New, and then created a project here. Well, we've already done that, so we can move on. So we're looking to import a data file. So we're going to go to Import. And we're not getting it from a database or an application. We're not getting it from these other areas. What we're doing is we're bringing it in from a file that's saved on my remote hard drive. So we'll go to File. I'm going to go to my hard drive here. And we're going to go to Video Teaching Notes. And I've saved all the data here in my data file. I'm going to open that up. And I've saved all the files that I'll need for everything from the Hub of Analytics Education. If you need to get these data files, make sure your educator gives you access to these data files. They'll have to get their own account at the Hub of Analytics Education. What we're going to be working with is the sales file. It is the big file. As you can see, it's 1.6 gig, almost 1.7 gigabytes of data. So we're going to open up the sales file. And it's going to give us this data definition wizard. So we're just going to put this here in the center and take a look at it. So this is a PC file, and it's going to come in as a standard ASCII code. So that we're in good shape here. Next step we're going to do is we're going to identify the different properties of our file. So it is a delimited text file. Even though this is a .csv, it's still a delimited text file. It is not an Excel file. And you can see all the different types of files that you can also read in if you're using ACL. But this is a delimited text file. Let's hit Next. Now I'm going to go through this quickly, but what we've got here is the data definition and the delimited file properties part of the window. Now, we are always going to start on line 1 with any of the files from the Hub of Analytics Education. But say you had a file from a client where it had a lot of header information and the real data doesn't start until line 10. Well, you would change this from a 1 to a 10. We'll get to field width momentarily. Next, we want to use the first row as field names. For all the files that we're using in the Hub of Analytics Education, the first row is always going to be the field names. And you can see those field names right here. If there are text qualifiers, we're treating all consecutive text qualifiers as 1. And the text qualifier we may have as a double quote. We don't have a lot of that. And the field separation for this particular file, since it's a comma-separated file, is a comma. Even our .txt files are also comma-separated. Now let's get to field width. This is telling us how much space that ACL is allowing us to read in this particular field. These are my fields. These are my records. Now the problem is ACL only looks at the first 1,000 records to make this determination. Well, what if I have a wider city name? Because this is store number, underscore, city name, underscore, and brand. What if I have a longer field name, a longer field width? Well, it'll start truncating variables. So say I only had set this instead of 20, say this was only 17. Well, what ends up happening is all of these records here would all have the same inventory ID. 1 Hardersfield _13. Remember, these last 5 parts of the inventory ID are the brand name. So all of these inventory IDs would be the same, even though these are all different brands: Knob Creek Bourbon, Woodbridge Moscato, Baker's Bourbon, and the 375 milliliter Knob Creek Bourbon. Those would all be treated as the same brand or the same inventory ID. So we at least have to have 20, but I can tell you that we have to maybe think about how wide this is going to be. Now, a couple of different ways. You can go to the client and ask them how wide their fields are, or you can maybe bring a bunch of the records into Excel and take a look at the widths, or do what I do is just be conservative. So I'm going to widen this out to, in this case, 35. I think that's pretty conservative. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for all the rest of these particular items. So store number is 2, brand is 5, the description here, make that wider, the size, a little wider, the sales quantity, I'm going to just make it wide, I'm going to make that 10. Just going through this quickly. Sales dollars, make that 15. Sales price, sales date, that's fine, that stays the same. Volume, classification's fine. Excise tax, want to make that wider. Just making these wide. We would probably take a little bit more time to understand how wide these are, but I just want to make sure that they're wide enough to be able to read in all of the data. We'll hit next. Now we're going to come up with and create a .fil file. .fil files this is where all the data is going to be stored in ACL. It's not going to be stored in the actual operating program. So when ACL needs to go and get the data, it just reaches into the .fil file and brings in the data that it needs. So we're just going to call this December sales, because we're bringing in the December 2016 data file. That's what we're going to call it. And we're going to hit save. All right. Now this is going to take a while, and we're going to fast forward here, and as soon as this is done, I'll come back with you. All right, so the next step here is we're going to edit the field properties. Now we can ignore any field we want, but we're not going to. All these fields we want, and there's 14 of them. And we're going to be using, if we look at these, we get the ID all up here, and we get these different types. And the 3 that we're going to be focused on are ASCII text, numeric, formatted, and date time. And I'm just going to show you real quickly how we're going to identify those. So in this particular case, this first one, inventory ID, has got numeric as well as alpha. So this is going to be a text file. The next one, store, is numeric, brand, numeric, description, etc. So we're just making sure that all of these things came across as either numeric or as text. In this case, we've got numeric with 2 decimal points. Sales price, also numeric, 2 decimal points. Volume, numeric, it says 1 decimal point, but I know I'm going to force that to be 0 because there should be 0 decimal points in this one. Classification is 0 decimal points, excise tax 2, and then our vendor number, numeric, and our vendor name, text. So those are pretty easy, but let's get to sales date here. Sales date's coming in as text. I don't want it to come in as text. I want that coming in as a date in case I want to look at seasonality or anything else. So we're going to highlight date time, and we're going to look at the way this date looks. It's year, month, and day. So we're going to put in a mask that looks exactly like this particular sales date. So I'm going to put in 4 capital Y's with the dash, then 2 capital M's for month with the dash, and then 2 capital D's for the day. So that way ACL knows that all of my sale dates follow this same pattern. All right, we're going to hit next and move on. This just gives me a little overview, make sure I've done everything. 14 records, overall record length is 216, and everything's either date time, these are numeric, or ASCII, and I'm fine. So we're going to hit finish. It's going to take a little bit of time to process, and I'll be right back with you. Didn't take very long at all, actually. That was very quick. So as you saw, I named this particular file December sales, in the same way I had named the Dot Fil file. So we've imported our data. Now we want to go through the process of doing some simple totals. That's all we want to do. I can take a look down here and I can see how many records I have, 12,825,363. But I really want to know how much was sales, total sales dollars. So what we can do is we can go up to Analyze, Total, and I'm given this little box here. So I can go to Total Fields, hit Sales Dollars, and put that in the selected field. If I wanted to do sales dollars divided by something, I could also put in an expression here and build out a different variable. But I'm just doing a very simple sales dollars, get the total. I could also put in here if I wanted to make it conditional. So if I wanted to make sure that I only wanted to look at sales dollars for store equals 1. So if the store number equaled 1, then I'd want the total sales dollars. So I can do some pretty simple sales stuff. I don't really need that expression builder, so we'll cancel out of that. So I want to make sure that I can calculate the total sales dollars. I don't have any conditions in here. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to take a little bit of time to process. Once it's done processing, I'll come back to you. That didn't take long at all. That was fast. So we have done import some data. We've gone through the process of calculating a very simple total really fast, $452,062,952.02 of December sales, and we did that all in a pretty quick amount of time. Stay tuned for more videos here on the Hub of Analytics Education dealing with ACL. Thanks for watching the Hub of Analytics Education video series. The Hub of Analytics Education provides open educational resources to educators around the globe, supporting both higher education and secondary education. For more information, please visit our website at hubae.org.